Hello and welcome back to Dr. Logic awkwardly does logic in her office. In this video, I'm going to give you the formal definition of a syllogistic proof. And then in the next videos, I'll introduce some of the rules that we need to actually start doing these proofs. Now, the definition of proof is actually quite straightforward. A syllogistic proof simply is a finite list of formulas, that is, categorical propositions in our whatever term language it is that we have defined, such that each proposition in this list is annotated with either one of our proof rules, which I'm about to introduce to you, or one of our axioms, which I introduced to you in the previous video. That's it. It's just a list, finite, so there will always be an endpoint. In fact, most of the proofs that we're going to look at are not going to be much longer than about 7 or 8 lines. But each one of them has to have a justification for why it gets to be in the list, in the proof, in order for it to count as a proof. Now, the last item that I've got here is just to give you a little bit of notation. So let me bring up the whiteboard so that you can see. If we have a proof of some proposition phi, so a formula that occurs somewhere in this finite list that derives from certain propositions psi1 and psi2, then what we will write is this. So if we have some categorical proposition psi1, categorical proposition psi2, and from those two propositions, we are able to prove some other proposition phi, then this is what we write. So this can either be read from psi1 and psi2, you can prove phi, or it can be read phi can be proved from psi1 and psi2, or phi is derivable from psi1 and psi2. Now, it's important to notice this little symbol here. This is what's called the single turnstile, and this is not to be confused with a very similar symbol that we've seen in previous videos, namely the double turnstile. So the double turnstile is a semantic notion. It was something that we defined with respect to interpretations. So the double turnstile has to do with meaning, it has to do with interpretations, it has to do with truth. The single turnstile, on the other hand, has to do with proof, with derivability, with occurrences of propositions in these finite annotated lists of formulas. So not the same symbol, different concepts that they are picking out. Double turnstile is the semantic concept. Single turnstile is the proof theoretic concept. These are not interchangeable. However, and this is something that we'll be seeing in a few videos' time, they are going to be intimately linked to each other. So there's your notation. We'll stop the sharing there. Now we have an idea of what proofs are, but not yet what we can actually start doing to put them in one. Where do we get our propositions from? What is psi1? What is psi2? What are our rules of inference? I can hear all of your questions coming through me from the internet, but never fear, because this is what we'll start talking about in our next videos. So I look forward to seeing you then. Cheers.